Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Michael in the Backyard. We're going to talk bicycles again today, so click off if you don't like bikes. But stay if you want to learn something. So, in the last week's video, I did a crank swap, or no, your TV didn't just freeze. I did a crankset swap on and showed you how I did it and why I did it on the CONCORD e-bike. Since then, I have some more information I'd like to share with you, just because information is power. And I want you to understand what you're getting yourself into when you buy an e-bike. Now, there's tons of guys doing e-bike reviews, but I like to get into the weeds a little bit on what e-bike do you need? What e-bike do you want? You know, I'm going to show you a couple of different things I've done. And I'm going to show you a couple of different e-bikes. I'm going to explain some differences between them that hopefully makes a lot of sense to you. So come along for the ride, and let's see what we can discover together. Now, this bike has a little bit of ridiculousness on the back. I have been playing around with things to carry batteries with on the back of my bikes, just for possibly doing some long rides type thing, planning on hopefully doing some long ride activity type stuff, you know, more than the battery capacity has on the bike. So this is the one we did put the red crankset on with the narrow wide chain ring here. And since I've done that on this particular bike, on one trail ride I went on, I jumped the chain at least 6 times, had to put it back on. I have since put probably, well, on that chain ring I put 43, probably 75, 80 miles on that set now. I'm just guessing. I know one ride was 43, another ride was 39. So it's been a lot of miles. Plus, I rode it this past week. I probably put another 20 miles on it. So there's been some mileage put on it and a lot of single track and some of it fairly rough. And it did not jump the chain once. The chain did not fall off once. Now, I was riding with a guy, and he was on flat ground, and he had the standard old, he had brought back to life an old mountain bike. And he had the traditional narrow front. He did a one by, but was a narrow on the front, narrow only, not a narrow wide. And his on the trail, not on the trail, on pavement, he hit a bump or something, and the chain fell off. Narrow wide, folks. This particular one is a class 2. And class 2 means the only difference between a class 1 and class 2, throttle. This class 1, no throttle. Same controller. Now, I want to get real deep in the weeds here a little bit with you on pedal assist and what pedal assist means. And yes, I got my riding glasses on. They're prescription riding glasses. I have these because I like the way they wrap around. They block bugs better than my regular, prescription glasses. These are prescription wraparounds, but they allow me to not get bugs as much in my eyes that float around. Okay, the power's on here. And as you can see, this odometer has 212 miles. You can go to, that's the time. That's the voltage. It's currently sitting at 34.6 volts. You can see how much battery I have left here. Starts off at about 42. You can drain it down to about 32. Right here, that's the big important one I want you to see. Not all bikes have this. This one does. That's amperage. It'll basically show you how much amperage is coming out of the battery and going to the motor, the rear hub motor. And what I noticed on my last ride is that I didn't burn. These 2 bars were there when I started. They were there when I finished. And that was kind of an awesome thing. And it had a revelation. I was thinking, because just to give you an idea, we'll go back to here and we'll go back to pedal assist plus. Pedal assist 1. It's going to dump X amount of miles per hour. Now, I don't know if I can get this to without pedaling. I'm going to try to do this one-handed here. Now this thing will sit there and pedal, with freewheel at almost 20 miles an hour in pedal assist 1. But what it doesn't do is after you, because it's not registering any speed, you know, that I'm writing, inputs that I'm giving it. And basically the inputs down here on this little dude right here picks up your crank rotation. And it says, oh, he's moving. Let's apply some juice. Well, pedal assist 1 will help you up to about, I'm not going to give you crazy accurate stuff, but pretty accurate. Pedal assist 3 I'm very familiar with. You know, maybe 8 miles an hour. 5, let's call it 5 to 7. And then pedal assist 2 will help you at 8 to 10 miles an hour. Pedal assist 3 will help you from about 10 to 12 miles an hour. And once you pass 12, you'll see this amperage on here. And I go back to that. That'll go back to 0. Now, I don't know if it'll show anything when I'm starting up here. Yeah, see how it's doing things there? That's throttle only. Well, I was riding and I noticed I was having 0 amperage for most of that ride, the last ride I did on this bike. And that was because I was running at 13 to 14 miles per hour with the rest of the group. So that means everything past 12 miles an hour is me, no motor. So when I say you can get as little or as much workout on these things, that's what I mean. These things, if you're trying to ride with a group, what this helps you do, if you're not as good or strong of a rider as other riders, and you got a long grade and they're walking off from you, you can bump this up to pedal assist 2 or 3 or 4 and help you maintain pace with them. And then you can back it back down just as easily when you're back on level ground or doing what you're doing. Now these have just a rotational signal. I don't know if it calculates RPM. I don't know if it calculates, you know, obviously it takes speed into consideration. And the reason I say that is because, and we're going to get to some more fun stuff. I had a revelation the other day. Actually, it was last night. I was watching one of my own videos that I just did on that crank switch, where I did the crank set and I did the bottom bracket bearings. I did a switch. And then I'm like, oh, now I can solve my problem even better. And that's what this video is about, is solving that problem. So stay tuned, stick with me. I want to tell you what I come up with, and I'm hoping it'll work. If you see in this video, it'll work. Hey, who we got here? There's little Miss Faye. How you doing there, girl? Oh, how you doing? You become my best buddy since we brought you home last year, aren't you? You're a good girl. So let's talk about this Hemingway. This Hemingway D7 hub motor bike, 1,000-watt motor in the rear, has a big battery, I think the battery in this way is close to 20 pounds. This bike altogether, as it sits, is over 100 pounds. And it has what's called torque sensing capabilities. In the crank set down there, you want to come inside, Faye, and cool off? Come on. Get in here, girl. There you go. It's a little cooler in here. It has a torque sensor. And what the torque sensor does, it can tell how much power you're putting on the pedal. I just wrote it this morning to prove it out, just to make sure I had my mind right. And it was kind of cool because on flat ground, when I'm pedaling, I had the little bar that shows how much amperage is going out. It didn't show it in digital form here. It shows it in bar form. And as I was going, it was on 1 bar. And then I thought, and I dropped a couple of gears, pedaling the same speed, or slower speed, obviously, not applying any more pressure to the pedals, and it still had 1 bar. Then I started applying pressure. As soon as I started applying the pressure, maybe a second and a half later, it's like 1,001, 1,000, boom. It was applying, all of a sudden there was 3 bars worth of juice showing, which is dumping more amps into that motor and giving me more power. And that's what the torque sensing capabilities do. So the more you give it, the more it gives you, type of thing. And when you're on flat ground, it's kind of like this. It'll maintain a certain pace. And the torque sensing, you know, you got pedal assist 1 through, I got pedal assist 1 through 9 on there. So there again, you still have different ranges of how much it will help you. So I just wanted to say that out loud. If you want, I mean, my vote is always a class 2, just because you have that opportunity to give it a little bit of throttle, stand up, stretch your legs, and not lose any momentum you got going. And another thing that I found with e-bikes, and I'm not bashing regular bikes. I have more regular bikes than e-bikes, and I love them. Wind. Everybody's ridden in a headwind, and it sucks so bad. And just to give you an example, many years ago, when I'd go on my 50-mile loop on the weekends, I had such a headwind because I'd go out to it wasn't necessarily a loop, it was an out and back type of thing. But I had such a headwind in this one hill, I could only manage, this is down a nice grade where you could easily hit 20 to 25 miles an hour. I could hit 8, and I was pedaling. I was in good shape then. I was pedaling hard. I mean, my average speed was 16 miles an hour when I normally went out ride. So I was carrying some decent speed around. No Tour de France numbers. Come on. No Lance Armstrong numbers. But 8 miles an hour is all I could hit going down that hill. I got all the way out to the park, turned around, came back, had a tailwind. Tailwinds are awesome. Always ride headwind when you're fresh and tailwinds when you're tired. I was hitting over 25 miles an hour uphill, up that same hill. So don't tell me wind doesn't do anything for you. It helps you. Well, guess what your wind beater is? E-bike. If you've got a headwind that's going to really take it away from you on flat ground and you can't get over 8-9 miles an hour, and you know I can pedal faster and this just isn't fun, it feels like I'm getting beat up, a little pedal assist, take it up one notch. Wind is negated. You have those options, which is kind of fun. Analog bikers don't like you for that because they got to work for it. I'm working for it too. All right, that's enough of that. Let's talk bottom brackets. So I'm going to do some stuff here. I got to get set up, and I'll be back with you in a little bit because if you look at the top of that toolbox over there, that's my bike box where I have a bike holder and a receiver hitch on it. I'm going to add an arbor press to it. I'm going to get the top cleaned off so we can do some work. So we'll be right back when I'm cleaned up and ready. Folks, we're back. I got my workbench pretty much cleaned off. This is back on my bench because K6 Outdoors and I went for put a new crank set like I did on my other bike on his, and went for a 5-mile ride, and he absolutely loves the smaller chain ring on the front. He did a 36 tooth, I believe, on his, and now he can climb hills better without, because he has better gear ratio. All right, now we're going to talk bottom brackets and what I'm going to do to improve the cross-chaining angle. And it's not going to be by much, but it is something I can do, so I'm going to do it. Every little bit can help because ideally, if I'm in an ideal situation is the front chain ring and the middle of the 7 in the back is in line with each other, chain straight. And when I'm in first gear or 7th gear, there's a little bit more cross-chaining, but that would minimize the cross-chaining effect. So I had an epiphany. I said that earlier in the video, so now you're getting ready to learn what it was. Here's your bottom bracket. Right now, this tapered piece of this shaft could go this way. It needs to go this way some more. I did buy a narrower bottom bracket. And you can probably see here, if I hold these up next to each other, shoulder to shoulder, how this one that's factory is longer by quite a bit. And when I say quite a bit, when you put these nose to nose, you can see the difference there. I'm hoping you can see that. So that's already going to bring it in, but what it does when you do that is this part here isn't as long, and I couldn't find anything that fit the bill perfectly. So this just screws in a little bit further, and I had enough capacity on the threads in the bottom bracket, so this would still go in, tighten up against here. This here is just a collared sleeve that threads in. It has a nice fit on this bearing, and when it's tight, it sandwiches it so this shaft can't do this, and it stabilizes it so it can't do this. Well, my epiphany was, it's like, wait a minute. There's room. Can I put a spacer inside here, behind the bearing, and get that shaft sucked in just a little bit deeper? And I'll bring the bike back in. I'll show you. Actually, I can show you on the red one. So when you look down here, you see the gap between that, right here where my finger is? There's a gap between here. And it's still quite a bit of gap there. And I've got plenty of room to bring this in some more. And there again, we're not talking a mile and a half. So what we're going to do here, and I just finally got my arbor press put on my bench. I drilled and tapped it as you saw in the time lapse back here, but I don't have any 2.5-inch bolts. So these come apart really easy. So I'm going to take, this is the factory one off the bike. I'm going to leave that one alone. This one's already shorter, so it's going to benefit by what I'm going to do here by putting a spacer in here of about 90 thousandths. This, I'll show you the gap I'm talking about. Let me press this out real quick. So we'll take this guy here, put a couple bars right here. We're just going to, it doesn't take much to press this out. I'm going to press supporting it on this lip here. The same lip that it tightens up on when it's on the bike. And granted, I'm only holding it in a couple of spots here, and you wouldn't want to do a whole lot. Now this pushes out real easy. I mean, I'm barely applying any pressure at all. And it just pushed that bearing out. Now, oh, the whole bearing came out that time. Sweet. Okay. Well, that's good news. Before I had the bearing was still stuck in here and I had to press the bearing out. And I was just going to tell you that I found a 16mm socket and I used this side and you had to push on through here. And you see there? And it's not ideal to push on the center ring on one of these bearings, but the press fit on these are so light that it doesn't hurt anything. And you can't have a lot of press fit or interference fit between the ID and the shaft and the OD and the housing. Otherwise, it starts to squish things and take up tolerances, and you'll start to feel the rollers in there. And once you feel the rollers, that's too tight. All right, with that being said, now what I'm going to do is make a, gosh, I really would like to have that off of there. Huh. Just wondering if I can push that shaft out, but I can't because that's against the shoulder. That's going to make it difficult. That, I can show you in the other one. Here. This one came apart. So there's a sleeve, spacer sleeve in here. That's in here. So when you tighten things up, the outer race is tightened together, and it's a spacer to keep you from putting any side load on the bearing, but also it's matched up really, really close to the shoulder here and here. So when you load it up, tighten it up, you don't put any side load here. It's matched. This shoulder length and this spacer length are matched to keep you from crushing things. So what I'm going to need to make is a spacer that's ideally this big around, so it fits inside like this one does, fits inside, but a little bit smaller so it goes all the way down to that bottom face. It'll allow it to rest on this face, but I can actually, yeah, I was going to show you that. I'm going to press this one in so I can show you what I'm doing, why I'm doing what I'm doing. It would make more sense. A picture's worth 1,000 words, so nice thing is I can take this and just kind of get it started straight. Like you saw there, it didn't take much to press that in. And I'll just take this and just, right there, it bottoms out. But you can see right here that lip. And that lip's the same diameter as this, so this fits right in there against that bearing. But I've got a lip. That lip doesn't have to be that big for this. So I measured it 103 thousandths there. So I can easily pull this out 90 thousandths, say 93 thousandths actually. I can space that bearing out, which would stop this shaft from going in as far, and then it would allow that crankset to be in just another 100 thousandths or 90 thousandths. Every little bit counts. Is the juice worth the squeeze? I don't know, but we're gonna do it. So we'll be back when I have the spacer built. Okay, it's the next evening, folks. I got my little bag of goodies here. I'm going to show you what I made. I made some spacers. This is a 97 thousandths thick. How thick is this guy? 99. We're going to go with a thinner one. 97 thousandths thick spacer. Now what I'm doing with that spacer is going to go right inside here. I put a bigger radius on this side that goes against the radius in here. Kind of like where the bearing sat, right? Now this one, we had the bearing come off with it. So all I got to do is shove this back into here. And I got to get the spacer that's in between lined up. I'll show you here in just a second the difference. Trying to get it started as straight as possible here. Very, very little room for error on this. That appears to be bottomed out. Now look at the gap we got there. It's a lot more gap than we had before. I've already pushed the bearing into this one with the spacer in it. And granted, we're going for about 100 thousandths, about 90 some thousandths. That's it. And you can see with the bearing and the spacer here, this spacer still lines up in here. Still doing spacer things. So now, just like the other side, and I'll have two of them. Count them, two. Now everything's trapped in there. Bearing still spins very nice and free. But yeah, now these are both the same, pretty much the same length now. So I got two short ones. And here again, we're back. If we go and put these side by side, like this, by doing what I did, I'm predicting my bottom bracket length is almost identical again. See? The thread tip to thread tip there, from shoulder to thread tip. I get it right. It's within a thread of one another, where the other ones, remember, are a lot shorter. But because I shoved this down with that spacer, I gained whatever I was short here to here is now back to normal. So now my bottom bracket's going to fit a lot better. And what I mean by better, there's going to be more more shaft sticking out here that my oh, this is the original. Duh. Yeah, see, I'm still getting, now I've got, I think I got enough sticking out here that's going to catch on that, what do you want to call it? Speed sensor. Because this will be out a little, we're just going to do one and see, okay? Let's get the bike up on the rack and take it apart and take a look. Now all we're going to need for this action is, whoops, that's not 6, it's an 8, doggone it. I knew that. I knew that. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring this down to the smallest gear. Just to reduce as much tension on this, just to make life easier for myself. Leave the chain on it until I get it broke loose, because right now it's not in my way. And it will quickly get in my way. Go ahead and pull the cover off the other side. Those weren't as tight as I thought they'd be. I probably need to, one of those things after you put them on a ride for a while, maybe just do a little reseat to make sure things are still tight enough. Now this one still has the factory bottom bracket on it. Now normally you take the other side off first, but that backed out really easily. I get my head in here, I can't see nothing. Same as I did before, I'm putting a little thin film of grease on the threads. Real quick job with the right tools, that's for sure. Well, that reduced that gap quite a bit. Boy, that's right in the middle. And that changed just about straight on. That was the perfect amount. Now up in the big gear, I've got some cross chaining, which is fine. And I got a little bit of cross chaining this way. Perfect. That's what I was gunning for. That's the target species there, buddies. Now I don't know if you guys remember this gap that was in here before, but when you look at it now, with that whole setup, we probably cut it at least in half. That's quite a bit of offset to go that way, to push that sprocket that way, and everything's lined up really, really good now. And my cross chaining is minimized a great deal. So I feel that was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do, and it's going to make my chain and everything run just a little bit longer. The shifting seems to be still really smooth and crisp as I'm running through the gears. I can get a click, get a gear, get a click, get a gear, click up. Each click I get the gear. It's still in adjustment really well. I actually started to adjust this barrel nut on the back side here and the one back here, and I actually ended up putting it back almost exactly where it was. So, and I actually did turn it on and check the pedal assist to make sure all that's still functioning as it should. Give it plus a couple. As soon as I start right there, let's just tell you a little bit about it here. That's pedal assist 2. It's going to go up to about 10 miles an hour. Pedal assist 1, still doing about 10. Pedal assist 3, just over 12. See, I'm still pedaling this the same speed now. It's helping out to 15. I go all the way up to 5. It goes up to 20. And I'm still only pedaling this fast. So that's how that all works. When you have the different pedal assists, it only helps you up to a certain speed because turn this off. The crank sensor just picks up that the crank's moving, and it's just going to apply X amount of juice to the rear hub motor. And when you go up, it applies X amount more, X amount more. Now, if you go up to 5, when you're going this slow and you go up to 5, yes, 5 is going to throw more juice at it. And if you're not keeping up with it, it's going to consume more amps as well. So we've had a discussion about that already. So yeah, that one's ready to go. I'm going to switch the other one over to the same crank set to get that chain where I want it. Primarily, honestly, there's really no advantage to doing it on the other one just yet. I'm going to leave it alone. I think I'm going to ride this one for a while, and if things are going well, then I might switch the other one over. I've already put a shorter situation in the other one, and all I would be doing on the other one is doing the same spacer setup I did, and just putting that spacer behind the bearing and just shoving this other crank further out by that 95 thousandths. But yeah, peanut butter slick, baby. Peanut butter slick. All right. Well, folks, I'm going to call it on this video. I have a high confidence that I'll be able to just run this thing, and it's going to be successful. It's going to work right. It's been working good as it is. I just improved the chain angle by doing what I did, which is, I think, key. But yeah, you can see if you had spare bearings, for instance, if you started having bearings that you were knocking out for whatever reason, and these are sealed bearings, it would take a while. You'd have to run these in water, really get them nastied up to take them out, in my opinion. But as easy as a little arbor press or a little hammer, a little tap, you can knock old bearings off, put new bearings on, provided the rust isn't in there, and just locked it up. It might take a lot more press than that, then. So right now, these bearings should last me many hundreds of miles, most likely thousands of miles, in my opinion. They're just, for what they are and the stress they're not under that much stress. They should go for a long time. It's not like this bearing is carrying the weight of the bike. It's carrying the weight of the rotational pressure. And there again, it's very well supported. It should work pretty well. All right, this is Michael saying, if it ain't broke, if it ain't broke, fix it till it is. And we'll see you on the next video. And I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see you on the next video if I'm lucky. Be good to one another out there. This is Michael. I'm out. In case you guys were wondering, I've been using this WD-40 Specialist Dry Lube. What I like about it is it goes on wet and it soaks in, and then it dries, so it doesn't attract as much dust and dirt as a wet lube would. But most bike chain lubes you buy will be a sort of a dry lube. This says dirt and dust resistant, great for table saws, drills, and lathes. There again, things that are going to be exposed to dust and whatnot. Shake can well. Here it says ideal for blades and bolts, doors and window tracks, slides, rollers, hinges, conveyor belts, power tools, and equipment. Safe on multiple surfaces. Anyway, you can buy a can of this way cheaper than you can buy a little bottle of bike lube. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what I do.